it is a requirement of your paper that you have two different kinds of sources, one web source and one database source. So I thought you would like to know what is the difference and what is a database source. Well, your databases are subscriptions, basically. So when you've been on the World Wide Web and you have found something interesting and you're about to read it, and all of a sudden you get a little pop-up that says you must subscribe before reading this article, that's what this is. It's a subscription. The university has subscribed to that publication, and you have access to it because you've helped pay for that through your tuition. So this is, and I'll show you where it's located. It's located on your tabs at the top of your Northwood screen. You can get to our library, and it's a collection of different subscriptions, like an online library. So one thing we like about it is it's reliable. What you find in the database, you do not have to consider or go back and forth. Is this a reliable source? What's their agenda? Have I heard of these people before? Because if it's in the database, it's either a scholarly article that has been peer reviewed by other professors and double checked, or it's very high level quality journalism, such as the Wall Street Journal, publications that are considered reputable. So it's a no-brainer. You choose something from the database and you're in good shape. You will encounter three different types. Some will have a DOI number, which simply means a document number. Some will have no DOI number. And then you have an encyclopedia style. And I'll show you how to handle each of these. It's important if you have a DOI number to go ahead and list that, because we are not going to use any web addresses. If you try to use the web address when you're in Northwood's database, it'll come out something like Northwood, some crazy goobly goop that no one outside of Northwood will be able to access. So it's utterly useless to anyone outside of Northwood. They can, however, go into their own database and very easily search for a document number and find that same version of an article that you're working with. And that's our goal. So that for your databases, you will have no http://www, none of that. You will simply have a document number, or you will have the database name. For samples of these, you can look right where you are on the page you're on. Look at Dickerman, and at the last line of the Dickerman, and they're alphabetized so you can find them easily. The last line you will see after the page number 20-29, you'll see the letters DOI:, and then a great big long number, which is a number that will appear. This is at the top of the article when you open it up in the database. If there is no DOI, you can use the citation right above Dickerman, Bates, as your sample, and you look at the last line and you see that they have written available from ProQuest, and ProQuest is a very common database. EBSCOhost, these are very common, and anyone who's involved with any major institution will be able to access those. So as long as they know what database to go into, it'll be very easy for them to do a quick search on your article title and find that same version. Good. Okay, let's try this out. Let's do an individual reference together using our sample, Dickerman, for one with a DOI number. Here's the format. You notice they've got the last name, first initial, and that's what you'll use. If you have two authors, notice they have an ampersand, that special and sign, and the second author's last name, first initial. Actually, they have two initials, so you can do the same thing. You will never use Mr. or Reverend or Doctor or PhD. That doesn't go in your citation. The next thing you see is the date of the original publication. And if you'll just glance down to the citation after two down, you'll see that APA Style likes to do the year first, comma, and then if there is a specific date, it comes after that. So as in Dill. it says 2007, October 17th. So they do it a little backwards there, but that's because they like the year first. In our sample, back up to our sample, you'll see that there's just a year. After that, we have two different titles we have to handle, so we handle them differently. The first is the article title. In the article title, what you will notice about it is that the only thing capitalized is the first letter. And then again after the colon, because it's like two full titles joined together there. If you have a proper name, you can capitalize that as well. But APA Style does their article titles in lowercase. Even if the original was all caps, you would make it lowercase because you're doing APA Style. Okay, the next title you see is the name of the journal or the magazine. In this case, Journal of Creativity and Mental Health, or newspaper title, for instance. And that is distinguished from the other title by making it italicized. And you notice that that is upper and lowercase. So that's a lot to remember. You don't have to memorize it, just follow your sample. The next thing you see are actually the volume, issues, and page numbers. And in your database, it may not actually tell you V for volume, I for issue, but you don't have to worry because it will maintain the same order. So if you see these numbers like this, any numbers that look like this, you will know that's actually the volume, the issue, and the page numbers. And you just keep it in the same order. And then, of course, your DOI number. Good. So now let's see what we do when we have no DOI. For this one, we'll look at Bates, which is directly above Dickerman, and the format is as follows. We're still going to do last name, comma, first initial. We're still going to have that date, a year at least, and sometimes specific information, month and day. And you notice that they only have the one title. That is because it is a standalone document. The one that they're citing is a dissertation, but likely you won't use a dissertation. So you'll have an article title, which we'll handle the same way we did in the previous slide. Just the first letter gets capitalized, no ital, everything lowercase unless it's proper name or following a colon. And we will have, again, the name of the journal, the magazine, or the newspaper from which you've taken it, and if there are volume and issues, etc. This time, however, the last line will say available from, and you'll have to know which database you're in so that you can list the database there. It's as simple as that. So here's an example of a database reference for my GM paper. I did a search. I did General Motors stock in EBSCOhost. I limited to full text and to 2015. So I chose the first one, General Motors stock revving up as profit more than doubles, which happened in 2016, not long ago. And now let's do the references. The first thing I need is the author's name, which I'll find here, and that becomes just first initial, McGrath, comma, M. Next, I need the year, month, and day, which they've written out that way, and I will write out with the year first, then spell out the month and the day. Next, I'll need the article title, which I find it's the biggest title there. And you know, I have to go lowercase, so mine will look like this. Only General Motors gets capitalized. Everything else is lowercase. Next, I will want to fade out. Next, I will want the magazine, and it says Forbes.com, and then I only have one page. It's page 8. So mine's going to look a little different. It's going to be Forbes, comma, P period 8. So when you just have the page, you do P period. Next, I need, and the last thing I need, is the database name, which was EBSCOhost. And to be even more specific, it was EBSCO Business Source Premier. Okay, so let's go to your website addresses. You're searching on the World Wide Web, find your internet source, and to do this, we will flip the page, go down to the letter K and find Kerwick as your example, and you will see it's much the same. Last name, comma, first initial. Your year, then the month and the day if you have one, and the article title. Capital letter, first word is capitalized, any proper names are capitalized, otherwise it's lowercase with no other emphasis. And then the name of the journal, newspaper, or magazine title that you pulled it from. You won't have the volume and issue probably, but that's okay. Whatever you have is good there. Here I'm going to ask you to do, it doesn't have it in the sample, it just says retrieved from. But I'm going to advise you that whenever you're dealing with electronic sources, it's a good idea to put the day you actually saw it yourself. I'm not going to require it, but I'm telling you from my personal experience that sometimes these websites disappear or things get updated, and that's kind of the advantage of it, right? That's why we like to use electronic sources. They are updated regularly. And if that happens and somebody tries to verify your information, they may find something very different, or they may not be able to find it at all. So in this case, you're saying on this day, it was there, and this is what it said. It's kind of a covering yourself and protecting yourself. But instead of name of database, you're going to now put your web address. What do you do though if there is no author? Which in a lot of cases there isn't when we're dealing with the internet. Nobody gets credit for the articles that we find. Well, the answer is pretty simple. Of course, that would disappear. What gets its place is the article title. So now we would start with the article title. The date is always going to get second place, second spot in your citation, and then all the rest will be the same. Good. Okay, so let's go to your website addresses. You're searching on the World Wide Web, find your internet source, and to do this, we will flip the page, go down to the letter K and find Kerwick as your example, and you will see it's much the same. Last name, comma, first initial. Your year, then the month and the day if you have one, and the article title. Capital letter, first word is capitalized, any proper names are capitalized, otherwise it's lowercase with no other emphasis. And then the name of the journal, newspaper, or magazine title that you pulled it from. You won't have the volume and issue probably, but that's okay. Whatever you have is good there. Here I'm going to ask you to do, it doesn't have it in the sample, it just says retrieved from. But I'm going to advise you that whenever you're dealing with electronic sources, it's a good idea to put the day you actually saw it yourself. I'm not going to require it, but I'm telling you from my personal experience that sometimes these websites disappear or things get updated, and that's kind of the advantage of it, right? That's why we like to use electronic sources. They are updated regularly. And if that happens and somebody tries to verify your information, they may find something very different, or they may not be able to find it at all. So in this case, you're saying on this day, it was there, and this is what it said. It's kind of a covering yourself and protecting yourself. But instead of name of database, you're going to now put your web address. What do you do though if there is no author? Which in a lot of cases there isn't when we're dealing with the internet. Nobody gets credit for the articles that we find. Well, the answer is pretty simple. Of course, that would disappear. What gets its place is the article title. So now we would start with the article title. The date is always going to get second place, second spot in your citation, and then all the rest will be the same. Good.
Many of you are going to use your company's website, and I think that's a perfect place to go. And as you do, you may have some questions about, well, I don't really have an article title, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of the website itself as if it were a book. And you don't want your reader to have to scan through the whole book, so you're not just going to list the website, the whole website. We want to list specifically where in the website we retrieve that information. And to do that, you can use the individual tab that you clicked on or the link as your article title. Some of these will give a name to give a title for the specific information, but if you can't find a title, just look at the tab that you clicked on or the link and use that as your article title. So, for instance, if they didn't title their piece, but you clicked on the About Us tab, that would go here in the article place, About Us. You would still have, hopefully, at least a year. You may have to look on the home page to see when it was last updated, and you can use that year. And then your website name gets the place of the magazine or journal spot, and it is italicized. Remember, this is not the address. This is just what they call themselves on their home page. And because it is electronic, you'll want to do the retrieved month, day, and year to cover yourself. And then you would put http://www, whatever the address is. And this would be the specific address after you have clicked on the particular article you are reading. Now, a special note, if you find that there is no date, in the place where we put the year, month, and day, you would put N period, D period, which stands for no date. But please check the homepage first, because in academia we issue these no dates. It makes them a little bit suspicious. So look for a real date, and if there isn't one, then you can put ND.
Now for those encyclopedias and a database that you may end up using called Business Insights, which is, it gives you a little snapshot of especially if it's a big business, one that's a larger corporation, you will see some very interesting details about the business right there on one page. So if you choose to use that, you will use this encyclopedia format. And how that works out is, of course, we have the article title, but what's weird about it is, in this case, the article title would be the thing you looked up, such as the company name. So if I were looking up Northwood University would actually be the article title. If I looked up the word peaches, peaches would be the article title here. And then you're still going to look for at least a year, something to indicate when this publication was there. And then which encyclopedia or dictionary was it? Was it World Book? Was it Britannica? Or, in the case of Business Insights, well, you would have your retrieved month, day, and year, and your web address if you're using an online encyclopedia. But if this is, in fact, like Business Insights, it's a database. So instead, those would go away, and you would just have the retrieve available from database. Remember, if you have no date, you can use ND.
Just remember, nobody expects you to memorize any of this. We only want you to know the right questions to ask and to know when you have to look it up. Use your style guide to look it up. The Quick Access is a wonderful source, and certainly you can use online after you leave my course. And of course you can contact me if you have questions about something we didn't cover, or if you can't find it in your book, I'm here for you. Okay, for your first assignment, I'm just asking you to do one of each, an internet source and a database source, and let's get those straight before we proceed. And we certainly don't want to wait till the last minute. Good, I look forward to seeing them.